He was born with the ball at his feet. Every movement, every pass, every goal was special. He impressed fans with his agility, technique, and love for the game. In FIFA's 1902 1980 for anniversary book, Pelé was hailed as the person who made football an art form. World football's governing body also named the Brazilian striker the World Footballer of the Century, while the International Olympic Committee named him as its sportsperson of the last century. Pelé was the king of football, a man small in stature but for whom no superlative is too big. Edson Arantes do Nascimento was born on October 23, 1940, in Três, Brazil, and was named after the American inventor Thomas Alva Edison. His nickname, though, would forever remain a mystery even to the man himself. The most common theory is that as a kid he was a fan of the goalkeeper in his father's team named Bile, but mispronounced it as Pile. Despite his frustration at the name, it stuck and developed into Pelé. In 1956, Pelé earned a contract with Brazilian side Santos and scored against Street André in his league debut at the age of 15. It wasn't long before he was called up to the Brazilian national team. At just 16 years and 257 days old, he made his international debut in a 2-1 defeat to Argentina, scoring Brazil's only goal of the game. A year later at the World Cup in Sweden, he was in the squad, although he had to be content with being on the bench at the start. But then the little magician scored 6 goals in 4 games, helping his country to the title. In the final against the hosts, Pelé put on a brilliant display of football artistry and tricks. An international star was born. In his hometown, Pelé was adored like no other footballer right from the start of his career. Brazil's government went as far as declaring him a national treasure at the age of just 20 to prevent him from taking a transfer abroad. When Pelé did venture beyond Brazil's borders, he was welcomed like a head of state. At the 1962 World Cup in Chile, though, the strikers suffered a setback. Brazil defended their title, but footballer's newest hero hardly played a part, getting injured in the second group stage game. As if to make good on a disappointing campaign, Pelé led Brazil to their 3rd title in 1970 in Mexico. A year later, the super striker made his 92nd international appearance in front of 180,000 fans in Rio de Janeiro's iconic Maracanã Stadium. It was Pelé's final appearance for the Seleção. Many considered his international retirement premature, considering Pelé was only 30 at the time, but with 77 goals to his name and a unique style, no one could doubt his commitment. Even today, the reasons behind Pelé's retirement remain unclear. Did it come as the result of a dispute involving the then president of the Brazilian governing body, João Havelange? Pelé was later to cite political reasons, stating that he didn't want to support his country's military junta. Whether he really was opposed to the dictatorship or had good connections with ministers remains a question about Pelé's life. The striker continued his playing career in the Brazilian league. Precisely how many games and goals he managed for Santos is unclear. Officially, though, his record is 1088 goals in 1114 games. What also remains unclear is when he scored his 1,000th goal. He was supposed to have scored it with a penalty in a game against Vasco da Gama, and the whole of Brazil celebrated this achievement on November 19, 1969. Even the church bells rang, but later research suggested that this goal was in fact his 1,002nd. Pelé called time on his playing career in 1974, at least temporarily. A year later, though, he signed a contract with New York Cosmos in the then little-known North American Soccer League. The reason? A friend had embezzled all of his assets and he needed the cash. In New York, Pelé earned millions of dollars a year, the highest contractual amount at the time. But in addition to the financial incentives, Pelé also became a pioneer for soccer in the United States. Along with West Germany's 1974 World Cup winning captain Franz Beckenbauer, Pelé helped popularize the sport in the States. In 1977, after he had led the Cosmos to a Soccer Bowl title, Pelé hung up his boots for GOAT. Even today, Pelé is widely considered the most complete attacking player in football history, alongside Argentina's late Diego Maradona and newly crowned World Cup winner Lionel Messi. The Brazilian number 10 had good feet and was also good in the air. Above all else, he was known for his intuitive nature in sizing up opponents' movements. Recognizing this allowed him to play the right pass or shoot at exactly the right time. Following his playing career, Pelé went on to hold a number of posts, including as a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador and Brazil's Extraordinary Minister for Sport, a post he used to try to battle corruption in football in the country. He also had a television company, published autobiographies, starred in films, and received a whole host of awards from the world's biggest sporting and media outlets. Every child in the world wants to play football like Pelé. That's why I take on the responsibility to show how to not only be a good footballer, but also a good man, he once said. In recent years, Pelé suffered a number of health challenges, undergoing a hip operation in 2012, suffering a urinary tract infection, surgery to remove kidney stones, and fighting a battle with cancer. In an interview with Brazilian broadcaster TV Globo in February 2020, Pelé's son, Enho, said his rather had become depressed and embarrassed by his deteriorating health, leaving him reclusive. As for his personal life, Pelé was married 3 times and had several affairs, fathering several children both in and out of wedlock. But the world will remember Pelé as the king of football.